Hi everyone, welcome back to the Jillibean Soup blog. This is Nicole Noah said, and today I'm going to share with you a few different ways to use the mix the media stencils and masks in your scrapbooking or card making projects. Today's project does feature a mini album, but you definitely don't need to use it for a mini album. You can definitely use the same techniques in cards or layouts, but this is the mini album that I created, and I just want to share with you some of the techniques I used for the inside of the album. So what you need for this project is the mix the media stencils, some mix the media masks, some modeling paste, a palette knife or a used gift card, some gelatos or even spray mist, baby wipes, chipboard, and sanding block or light sandpaper. Now I'm just going to show you the inside of my mini album really quick and where we're going to start, which is to use a tone-on-tone color to create a background. So in this case I used the polka dot mask stencil here, and you can see just with the plain modeling paste that I've created a background into my mini album, but there's a second step that we'll go through later, and that's adding some color. So let's go ahead and just get started. So what you want to do to create your mini album is get some chipboard pieces. My piece is measured 4 by 4 inches, but you can create the mini album however large or small you'd like. Just make sure you have something that's fairly sturdy that will take the modeling paste quite well. And you want to pre-cut all your sizes before you begin. Then the next step is just to prime up your pages, and what you need to do for that is just apply a good amount of modeling paste to the top of each chipboard piece and then spread it out in a thin layer covering the entire top of the chipboard piece. It kind of will feel almost a little bit wet as you get going. The chipboard might feel a little, not soaking wet, but damp. But just make sure you cover everything really well in a thin layer, and don't be afraid to leave some thicker parts and some thinner parts and leave a little bit messy. It's kind of not a clean and neat looking process. You really will get a big bang for your buck by leaving things a little bit messy at this point. So once you have one side covered completely with the modeling paste, just set them aside to dry. I let mine dry overnight. It doesn't need to take overnight, but just make sure that before you do the next step that everything has been completely dried, and you want to apply the modeling paste to both sides of the chipboard pieces. You'll also notice there's some rough edges, and at this point don't even worry about that. We'll clean those edges up at the end. So the first part I did was I actually used this step for most of my book, and that's using the polka dot stencil and just layering it completely over top of the chipboard piece and adding a thin layer of modeling paste to the dry modeling paste. And so what this will do is it will create a complete polka dot background onto your chipboard. Now you can cover the whole thing with polka dots, or you can just do a strip with polka dots, or you can just do a few different spots with polka dots. You can really move the stencil around as often as you want. To create a different look on each page if you wanted. Me, I just wanted them all with polka dots like this here. And so once it was covered, I just peeled the stencil off and put it off to the side and did a few pages in the same manner. And then I moved on to the mask. And so I really love this Today mask. So what I did was I just placed the Today mask onto my dry chipboard piece, and then I added another thin layer of modeling paste directly over the whole page, including the area where I had done the modeling paste earlier. And if you keep adding just a little few layers, you don't want it to be super thick, but you want to cover that Today word really well and carry it all the way down through the bottom of your chipboard piece. And you'll see that you can kind of see it through the modeling paste. You just want to pick it out with a pin or a paper piercer of some sort. And once you peel that off really gently, you'll notice that you've created that Today word as an indent into your page. So it's a really fun way to come up with a unique page in your mini album. And you could interchange some of the different masks or stencils to do just this. So pretty cool. And then there's also smaller stencils like this one here that says hello. And quite simply, just like the polka dot stencil, you would just place the stencil where you'd like it, and apply some modeling paste into the negative area of that stencil until the whole area of that stencil is completely covered. And what I found is there's a lot of little smaller areas, so depending on how much you want in there, I kind of layered this a little bit thicker, because at the end of it, once you remove the stencil, it's going to create a really fun raised look that I think picks up colors really well. So really get that in there. And again, it doesn't have to be neat. You can see here in the photo that mine is really kind of just blobbed on and smoothed out a little bit. But once you gently remove the stencil, it creates a really cool raised look. And you can see that there's some rough edges, but again, once it's dry, it's really easy just to clean that up with a little bit of light sanding. So again, set that aside, continue in your mini book doing all the pages that you need depending on the size you want for your mini album. Now, once you have all your pages dry, you do want to take your sandpaper and just give it a light skim around each of the edges and just gently over the top just to clean off some of those rougher spots left over by the modeling paste when you peeled off the stencil. And you can see here there's a couple examples from inside my album and how I have added some color to each of the masks and stencils just to add some character to the album really easily. And what I actually did is I just laid all my pieces out and I used a similar color palette to make it go simple. And I used the same technique on all these pages and just laid them all out, used similar colors, and just kind of went crazy. So I used some gelatos, but you could definitely do the same thing by having some mist on a craft paper. And with gelatos, it's like a crayon. You just want to color it right on there until you have the amount of color that you want. And then it is water soluble, so you want to use you can use your finger to rub it in, or I use a baby wipe to kind of rub it in, and it also removes some of the color as you go, and you're able to play with it a little bit. So you just want to move it around into the medium until you get the colors that you like. You can see here I kind of added a few little bits of blue and some of the gold, so it's not just all one color. And the different edges from each of the masks or stencils really picks up the colors differently, such as the polka dot one here with some color applied to it. You can see there's some coral pieces stuck around the polka dots versus the plain gold edge. And I think my favorite one is actually this hello with the different variances of the blue and the gold, and I think I've added a little bit of brown down at the bottom of this page. And I've actually left some of the white showing through from the modeling paste. I didn't apply color in certain areas, and it creates a really fun, almost watercolor artsy look. So at this point, once you have these all ready to go, you just need to punch some holes and add some more paper and embellishments and put your mini album together with some jump rings, and you're done. So I hoped you learned a few fun techniques using the masks and stencils from the Mix the Media collection, and thanks for joining me.